And welcome to Community Kitchen. Beautiful day. We're starting to feel those little inkling feelings of summer coming, which I'm sure will be a pleasure to a lot of us gardeners who enjoy that. Today we've got a couple of interesting guests. Last week I mentioned that we're going to be talking about camel milk, and we have Deb Corbett who's going to come on the show first up this morning to talk about camel milk. She has a Camel Milk Australia. She has a farm in the Black Butt area, so that should be interesting. And mushrooms. It's one of those things, isn't it, that the mushrooms, you either love them or you hate them. But we have one of our local schools in the Moreton Bay region, the Burpengary State School, is taking on a program where they're going to be growing mushrooms, and so we're going to be talking to someone from the Mushroom Association a little bit later to find out what's going on there, and hopefully we'll follow up that program to see how the children enjoyed that in the next week or so. I think 10 days or something. I think you produce these fantastic mushrooms, so it'd be interesting for the children to learn that. So what we'll do now is we'll go to a song and we'll come back very shortly with our first guest, Deb Corbett from Camel Milk Australia. And welcome back to Community Kitchen. We have our guest online, Deb Corbett. Good morning.
Good morning, Annette.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Have you milked the camels yet this morning?
No, we're milking this afternoon today.
I think it's amazing. I was so happy to find the article in the paper last week or whatever. And now, Camel Milk Australia, where did this whole story begin for you?
Well, the whole story began here at our property at Black Butt. We have 1,700 acres here, and we run Drought Master cattle. And my husband wanted to get some camels for weed control. And we bought 11 camels, just wild camels, and they were here. That was about 6 years ago. And then about 2 years ago, I just was looking at them, and they'd had a couple of babies, and I thought, camel milk, I wonder what that's all about. And I thought, the people in the Middle East live on it.
Exactly.
And I thought, I just Googled camel milk. And that was just the beginning, and I have not stopped researching camel milk since. And at the time, because we had the two girls that had babies, I asked my husband if it was possible to break them in, and he said, "What for?" And I said, "Well, I want to milk them." And he said, "Well, I'll break them in, but you can milk them." So 4 days later, I was milking my dear Clarice. She's never had a halter or a rope on her. I milked her for 18 months. She's now having another baby, so she's out in the paddock, but she still comes in every day. Milking time, she's still there at the yards, and we give her feed. That's how it all started. And then once I milked them, and then I thought, well, what am I going to do with this milk now? And that's when I thought, they make goat's milk soap and different things. I wonder if I could make it with camel milk. So then it started me researching how to make milk soaps then. And then it just went from there. I managed to make the soap, and that turned out really, really well. And then a bit further down the track, I was asked if I could make milk lotion with the milk. And I thought, oh, boy. Anyway, I researched that, and with some help from some friends, yes, we made the lotion, and it's just gone from there. The lotion, now we make creams, and then I was at a meeting one day, and I met Mike Ethorn that has the abattoir at Caboolture, the camel abattoir.
Oh, yes, yeah.
And he said to me, I have hump fat. And he said, that would be really good in your soap. And I thought, well, thank you very much.
So now you have to render that too.
Yes, we render that down, and of course I tried to research that, but there was no information on camel hump fat. So I had actually been in Amman in January for a camel conference. I went over there, and I met a lot of research doctors, etc., that research camels, and I had a lot of cards, and I picked one out, and I thought, well, I'll email this man. He's in Pakistan, and he does publish a lot of stuff online. So I emailed him, and I said, look, can you give me some information on the camel hump fat? And straight away he emailed me back, and he said the pastoralists over there use it for treating dogs with mange.
Oh.
So I thought, well, maybe I could make a pet soap out of it. Because a lot of people were buying my soap and lotion and using it on their dogs. And I thought, well, I'll try this anyway. I have made that soap. That's all curing now. And I thought, well, this oil is just beautiful. So I started adding it to my lotion and my creams and making a more emollient cream, lotion and cream. Just beautiful. And also some lip balm out of it.
Camel kisses, I think you call that, don't you?
That's right. And then when I was making the lip balm, people were coming back and saying, oh, we're using this as an ointment. And I thought, that little pot is not going to go far as an ointment. So I thought, okay, we'll make a bigger pot. And we've called that baby balm, our Camel Kisses baby balm, and that's made out of the camel oil. And they using it on babies, you know, for nappy rash or
fantastic.
Just putting it on their bottoms, and people are using that as an ointment too. So it just grows and grows, and of course now we're doing the dairy because the inquiries for the milk were just overwhelming.
So a lot of people have different allergies. I mean, over the years we've seen so many products with goat's milk, so I guess logically when you think of camel milk,
yes,
it really is an open door, isn't it?
Yes. The camel milk is very, very close to human milk and extremely good for people with allergies or anything wrong with their immune system. The camel milk, that's where it comes into its own.
That's incredible. Have you ever tried making cheese with it?
I have, yes.
Just when I was reading the article, and I Googled a little bit, and it just said it had a little bit of a saltier taste.
The milk does.
Yes.
But what I did with the cheese, I did a very, very simple thing with the cheese, and that was just a litre of camel milk, and just bring it just to the boil, and then take it off the stove and add 50 ml of lemon juice, and of course it curdles. It's very, very fine. You can see just fine curds. And then I just let that sit for 20 minutes, half an hour to cool. Put it through a cheesecloth, and just had the most beautiful, very slight lemon flavoured soft cheese. It was just lovely, and the liquid, we drank that.
Did you?
Oh, look, it was beautiful.
So you just use that as people would use like a ricotta or something like that?
Yeah.
That's interesting, isn't it?
But you can use that recipe just with ordinary cow's milk.
Yes.
But the only thing with the camel milk, there's... it only made about 100 grams.
Yes.
So I thought that this is a very expensive cheese.
When you were actually talking about the camel hump earlier, one of my family had lived in Kazakhstan, and she was saying that when you'd go to the market there, you'd buy a camel hump, and it was like a brisket.
Yes.
Is that what you find the camel hump looks like when it's actually, or is it more fat?
Well, it's just white fat. It's just white fat, and I would say I would have had maybe like 3 kilos in one. It was in various pieces, but when I rendered that all down, all I was left with was just a little bit of fibrous sort of tissue that fitted into the palm of my hand.
Wow. Now look, different stories of camels and things over time. I mean, I read in the Country Life about 3 weeks ago that camels also help their bacteria or something like that. They get rid of bacteria in the water. Is that right?
No. What it is, it's the co-grazing of the camels with cattle. Now, we have seen this quite evident here. What it is, the camels have it's a microbe that's in their saliva. And when you run your camels with your cattle, that saliva gets transferred to them via the water or feed. And then when the cattle ingest that, it stimulates their rumen to eat more feed, and they'll eat more rubbishy feed in drought time that they would normally not touch, and it helps for that to gain weight.
That's incredible, isn't it?
Dr. Rafat Al-Jazan at Gatton Uni, he's doing the research on that.
That's incredible. A lot of people, like reading different articles also, you hear of these stories about camels being really, really, really bad-tempered. Do you find that?
No, not at all. These girls, now, I just think they are just such absolute ladies.
No, isn't that beautiful?
Yeah, if you treat them quietly, they do not like rough treatment and they do not like to be rushed. But once you've got them coming in that routine, as I do with the milking, they're just beautiful. They do nothing wrong. They just walk in and out. They know their order that they come in, and they respond to a gentle tug on the lead. If you try to yank them or whatever, look, you're just wasting your time.
Isn't it incredible how different ideas get sort of pushed along? I mean, I remember reading that book where the young Queensland girl tracks or something like that, and she rode right across, but she was dealing with the wild camels, I guess, in the middle of in the desert, and I think that was you get these different ideas. So what's going to happen now? You've done the milk, you've done the soap, you're going to have to think of something else to use all the camel milk for.
Well, it's for human consumption now. That's why we're building the dairy.
And will people be able to, will that be a specialised thing, or will you be able to sell that through shops?
Oh, yes, definitely. We'd be able to sell it through shops.
That's incredible, isn't it?
All we have to do is just adhere to the same rules and regulations that someone that was building a bovine dairy is. It'll just be treated exactly the same.
Well, that's been such a journey for you, hasn't it?
It's been an amazing journey. And my poor husband's getting ready for retirement, and I said, well, I think you're going to have to put that on the back burner. I need all your super money.
That is funny. Well, he has a good purpose for you then. That's lovely. Yes. But let me just ask this. The original idea was for weed control.
Yes.
Did that happen?
Oh, yes. Yes, they loved, we had quite a bit of prickly pear, you know, the cactus.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, yes, they just decimated that. All our little regrowth, our eucalypt regrowth, they just chew it right down to just above knee height, which makes it so much easier to come in with your chemicals.
Yes.
And you're using far, far less chemical than what you would, you know, with a regrowth tree that's sort of 10 or 12 foot high. No, they're fantastic. And there's a purple flower that they eat, which grows on the ground, and I refer to it as Patterson's curse.
Yes, we do too, yes.
Well, yeah, I was told that is not quite the correct term, but anyway, that purple Patterson's curse, they love it.
Gone.
Yeah.
They're incredible, aren't they?
Very little of that now, and probably 3 years ago you would look out and you would see it right across the paddock. Well, I haven't seen any for a long time now.
Oh, that sounds like it's a lovely story, Deb.
Yes.
It's a lovely story. What did you do before you had your camels?
Well, we were in Brisbane, but we have a commercial construction company where we build factories and shops, etc. And the farm was just somewhere to come away for the weekend. But now it's become just we're here. We've sold our property in Brisbane. We're here at the farm all the time, and now we've bought another block at Kingaroy where the dairy is going, and that's all starting now. We're doing all the groundwork, and I just received such positive help from everybody.
That's fantastic, isn't it?
And that includes government. I mean, the government people are just so supportive and want to see it all up and running.
I think it's brilliant. I mean, you've moved very quickly, it seems, in such a short amount of time. You know, like moved lots of places in that short amount of time.
Yes.
Getting to have a dairy.
Yes.
We'll have to follow it up once that's operational.
Oh, yes. It will be fantastic. I'm really looking forward to it.
Well, you're lucky you had your construction business. Now you can get your dairy built.
That's right.
There was a purpose for it. So your husband can't retire yet.
No.
He's got a few more things to build, apparently.
Oh, yes.
Well, look, Deb, thank you for joining us this morning. I mean, I think a lot of people, and I said that we were going to be talking to a lady who has camels and she's milking her camels. Everyone was sort of, oh, okay.
Yeah.
But it's nice to share that, and I'm sure that we'll look forward to seeing those little jars of camel milk on the supermarket shelves in a year or so.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Thanks for joining us, Deb Corbett.
Thank you, Anna.
Bye. And you're back with Community Kitchen. We're going to be talking about mushrooms a little bit later, a program starting at the Burpengary State School. But as I mentioned earlier, the weather is changing. Spring's coming. I said summer, but we know that spring's coming. And there's different ideas for food when spring's around. You tend to like to have that beautiful new season lamb, of course. It's fantastic. But knowing that we're going to be talking about mushrooms, I saw this wonderful recipe for a grilled halloumi with lemon myrtle, mushrooms and fresh asparagus. Halloumi is a cheese that is just wonderful to use. You know, if you've got vegetarians coming and you want to put that little bit of extra bulk, of course halloumi is fantastic. So we're talking about grilling halloumi and just doing mushrooms and fresh asparagus. And basically what you're using, of course, is some olive oil, some lemon juice, some black pepper, some dried lemon myrtle. If you've got fresh, you can use that. 400 grams of button mushrooms, 250 grams of halloumi, and about 18 asparagus spears, and we're talking a serving of 4 for 4 people, some lemon zest and a quarter of a cup of slivered almonds. And basically you are combining your oil, lemon juice, pepper and lemon myrtle in a small bowl. 3 tablespoons of oil, a tablespoon of lemon juice, a little bit of pepper and a half a teaspoon of myrtle. Toss through the mushrooms and halloumi. Put the mushrooms and halloumi on a grill pan, great to do on the barbecue, and cook 5 to 7 minutes. When you've steamed your asparagus, you could also actually put that on the grill if you wanted to. You just arrange your mushrooms, halloumi and asparagus on a serving plate and scatter on your lemon juice and almonds. How easy is that? And you've got your mushrooms, you've got your fantastic greens from your asparagus. I would love that with something like some grilled lamb chops or fish, or it wouldn't matter, but something on the side like that is brilliant. And I think a lot of times we forget that just how lovely it is to have something like some grilled asparagus, some nice mushrooms, and to bulk it up we've got that little bit of halloumi on the side. And I'm sure when we talk to Jane from the Queensland Mushroom Association, she's going to give us a few tips. And it's interesting to see how mushrooms have changed over the years, because they were saying that the only mushrooms available in the 1970s were in cans. Now we go into the supermarket and there's so many types, or into your fruit shop, and there's so many types that it can be quite confusing. So I think that will definitely learn a little bit about that when we talk to Jane, who's one of the representatives this morning. I think we'll go to a song, and when we come back we'll be talking with our next guest. And welcome back to Community Kitchen. We're speaking with Jane, who's the Queensland State Promotions and PR Coordinator for the Australian Mushroom Growers. Good morning, Jane. How are you?
Hello, I'm very well, thank you, Annette. How are you?
That's a big title.
Sounds much more impressive than it is.
Oh, it's amazing. I was just saying before, just looking up on the internet yesterday, interesting, they were saying in the 1970s mushrooms were really only available in cans. Isn't that incredible?
Yeah, it's there's been a massive growth in the industry, and in fact we had our 50th anniversary of mushroom growing in Australia only last year. And one of the things that we're doing at the moment that obviously we're going to be talking about today is our involvement with schools and with the education. And as part of the little kit that goes to the schools, they talk about the history of mushroom growing in Australia. And I was actually only, reading it up yesterday, forcing up for this interview today. And it reminded me that they were first grown in Sydney in the railway tunnels. And some of them that were never actually built. I think there was the Bondi line and several of those lines. And that's where they started originally growing the mushrooms in Australia. And then, of course, it's developed and changed, and particularly, as you said, in the 70s and 80s, then that's when it really grew into a much more professional industry with larger yields and so on. And now, of course, it's highly mechanised with controlled temperatures and all of that, because mushrooms being the nature of what they are, being a fungi and in their own sort of food group, they're obviously very sensitive to things like humidity, temperature, and so on. I mean, all farmers face this, obviously, with whatever crop they're growing, but mushrooms are particularly sensitive, so that's why they're mainly grown, not all, but mainly grown in controlled atmosphere, very large, sort of imagine like a huge walk-in fridge, where they can actually control the humidity and so on a daily basis, which means that they, the mushrooms keep producing regardless of what the weather is like.
It's incredible, isn't it? Like there's a mushroom farm at Woodford.
There is.
Yes, and when a lot of people talk about the fact that, of course, once you get rid of the mushrooms, of course, then you've got this incredible mulch.
Yes.
And that's beautiful, isn't it?
It is, yes. The mushroom farm at Woodford is one that we have a lot to do with. It's run by the Wilhelmsey family, who've been growing mushrooms in Queensland for a long time. And they do a great job up there, employing lots of local people, because it's quite labour intensive, because everything has to be done by hand. It's not a mechanised industry, really, not until you get to even at the packing stage, it all has to be done by hand, because they're very delicate things, as you can imagine. And so they do employ a lot of people, a lot of local people. And in fact, we had a lovely event up there a couple of weeks ago on their farm, where we had like a farm walk and took chefs from a lot of the clubs throughout Queensland. Some of them flew down from up north as well to take the chefs on the walk so they could see the process of how the mushrooms are grown. And then we gave them a lovely mushroom-themed lunch at the end, sitting out under the trees outside, overlooking the lovely area around Woodford, which is, now where you all live, of course. So
which is fantastic.
It was very nice. It was, we had a lovely day. Yeah, it was beautiful.
I think it's interesting when I think back about mushrooms. I mean, when we were children, after the rain, it was one of those things. We'd all go out mushroom hunting, and you'd have, which is, I imagine now, when I think about it, was like a portobello taste that we used to have.
Yes.
And I just love, still to this day, it is just one of those indulgent things where you have to use heaps and heaps of butter.
Oh, yeah.
It's the only way to do the proper mushrooms. But looking at all the different types now, and of course, we're getting a lot of publicity with mushrooms on the different cooking shows.
Yes.
There's a lot of mushrooms there that a lot of people wouldn't have even tried.
Well, that's right. They're bringing in a lot of, we call them the exotics. The different varieties which are grown in Asia, like the wood ears and the gnocchis and all of these shiitakes, various different kinds. But mainly in Australia, the most popular mushroom to be grown and eaten is what we call the agricus variety.
Yes. And
that, and this is something that people don't often realise. It's all the one variety, even though you might have little tiny baby buttons, the little like champignons, and then going up to the flats and then up to the really big, huge flat mushrooms that you can get. Some of them which are, sort of in the old money, 4 inches in diameter across the top.
They're
really big
incredible,
ones.
aren't they?
Yeah, they are all the same variety. It's just that as they get bigger, their name changes.
Oh, is that right?
Yes, it is, yes. Also in that variety are the Swiss Browns,
Yes.
and the Portobello. They are all part of that Agricus variety, and they are the most commonly grown in Australia. They're for various reasons, including the fact that they're quite easy to grow, and they produce all these different varieties. I would say 70% of mushrooms consumed and grown in Australia come into that category, and then 30% are the more exotic ones that you're talking about. There's all sorts of slippery jacks and all sorts of interesting Asian-style mushrooms, which are grown in smaller quantities as well. Yeah.
I think one of the things too, a lot of people, over time when we were children, it was just part of your life that you went out mushroom collecting, and which was just a beautiful thing to do. And nowadays there's always that fear of, identifying something wild, and of course it relates to everything in the bush. You've really got to know what you're eating.
That's very true, yes. I mean, I think, there are specialists and people who do this fossicking and foraging, and it's extremely popular, and has been made popular by various television programs, particularly ones coming in from the UK or for Europe. But you do need to know what you're doing. Obviously, you need to know exactly that the mushroom is an actual mushroom. It's not a poisonous one. Because there obviously has been situations, where that tragedies have occurred with people misunderstanding. You really, you're playing it safe by buying them from the greengrocer or from the supermarket.
Now, do truffles fall into the same category as a mushroom?
Yes, it is broadly the same group. Yes, it is a fungi, but that's all. Nothing else. It's not a vegetable. It's not a fruit. Fungi are a food group, all of their own.
It's incredible, isn't it? I noticed that now we're starting to get a lot of people growing the truffles here, which we never had as much.
That's
before.
right, particularly Western Australia, Tasmania, places like that. Yes, that is. It's a very niche area, but it is. You can tell. I guess it's that same smoky, deep, earthy sort of flavour that you do get in a mushroom. It's also been discovered that it's called umami, that flavour. I'm sure you've heard about that. It's that fifth taste.
Yes.
That's only been fairly recently discovered, and a mushroom is a classic example of the umami flavour, and it's that deep, earthy, savoury taste, which isn't really like anything else. And it's almost a meaty sort of taste, and also that perfume, as you said, when you fry them in butter. There's just nothing better.
You either love them or hate them, and I do fall in the category. I just absolutely love the mushrooms done in the butter and a bit of pepper and a bit of salt. Absolutely perfect, I think.
Well, I think this is often people didn't, particularly in the older days when they first started coming in with the fresh ones, didn't really know how to cook them, and often overcooked them, and also were presenting them in a way that wasn't particularly appealing to children.
Yes.
Which is one of the reasons why we started this school garden program. And we found that if they are presented in a certain way, if they're finely diced up, they're cooked in the butter, put through things like spaghetti bolognese or into little meatballs or, all of these different sorts of things, they are appealing to all tastes, and particularly to children. So it's all really about presenting them in a way that is appealing, and this is why, as I said, we've come up with this program, and the local Burpengary State School are involved with their school garden growing mushrooms. So they're finding that the kids are just loving them.
It's like a 10-day process or something, isn't it?
Yes, it depends on the size of the mushroom that you're after, but basically the flushes, as they call them, because mushrooms are grown on like a sort of a slab of, I guess the easiest way to describe it is like a sphagnum moss type thing.
Yes.
And the spawn is placed on there, and then they just sat basically in a dark place or a shady place, and sprayed with water every day, just a little bit of water, and then they just pop their little heads up within about 2 weeks. So we had them delivered to the schools about 2 weeks ago, and they're all finding now that they're popping up, and so they've got like the little champignons.
Oh, fantastic!
That are coming, and of course the kids are loving it because
of course they would.
And then of course once they actually start growing, and once they pop their little heads up through the slab, then it's a very fast process. You can almost see them growing daily.
Isn't that incredible?
Yeah. I mean, I'm doing an event down at the Gold Coast this weekend. That's like a food festival and a big lunch at the Gold Coast Arts Centre, and I'm having mushrooms delivered down there on the Friday, and I know that from the time they arrive there and they're in that closed up in that dark sort of room that's a convention room down there, by the next day they would have almost, got a third again in size by the time we get down there on Saturday.
That's incredible, isn't it?
I know, it's quite extraordinary.
But I think the children love things like, we've been so happy and we've been so fortunate in Australia to have Stephanie Alexander with her gardening program. Yes. And I think the fact that children, we've talked to different children on this show, and just they love eating, like all of a sudden they're eating things like a beetroot, and their parents say, I never thought they'd eat a beetroot.
That's right.
And they're trying these things, so hopefully this will introduce mushrooms to a lot of children's diets.
Yes, I think so. And, I mean, this is our idea behind it, and we've had a fantastic take-up rate from the schools. In fact, it was embarrassing because we couldn't actually supply all of the schools that wanted them.
Wow.
I originally, when I approached the schools, and I spoke to all of the ones that are in the garden scheme, Stephanie's garden scheme, and thinking, one or two might do it. They all wanted to do it. We had 15 schools wanting to be involved, and we just couldn't really service it at this stage. We will be able to do that next year, but we only really wanted sort of 4 or 5 is almost like a pilot group to see how it goes and so on. So I had to disappoint, 10 schools, but Ross Tattersall, who runs after the kitchen garden down at Burpengary, was one of the first in, so he got in, put his hand up, so that's how Burpengary come to be involved. And we've also got in your area a convent school at Caloundra involved.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and the rest are sort of on the other side of Brisbane.
I think it's lovely, and at the same time I think you're going to do a special treat Dad to a mushroom feast on Father's Day.
Yeah, well the idea is part of the resource that we gave the schools were simple little recipes that could be a breakfast or a brunch for Father's Day. And so the idea is the children will harvest the mushrooms on Friday. They've got the little brown bags we've given them. They'll take them home. Each child who's involved with the project will take it home and cook their dad up, or granddad or father figure, a breakfast on Father's Day. And if they don't have enough, if it's not quite, because obviously they're not growing it under controlled conditions, and it's not as many as if they were growing on the farm, we'll make up the shortfall and arrange for the local greengrocer nearby to supply the mushrooms. So it should be a really nice day for everyone.
Well, I hope to follow up the Burpengary School down the track, but it's interesting, just sharing with the listeners this morning, I shared with them using the mushrooms, a grilled halloumi with lemon, myrtle, mushrooms and fresh asparagus. And it's like so easy.
Yeah,
and yet, all those tastes, you forget, like a lot of people think you've got to have like a mushroom sauce or you've got to do whatever, but sometimes just a good old mushroom grilled on the barbecue is just beautiful,
Exactly,
isn't it?
Yeah, that you're absolutely right. I mean, they're such a versatile thing. It can be as simple or as complex as you like. We do a lot of cooking, like for example, we were at the exhibition, the RNA, cooking there. We'll be doing this cooking at the Gold Coast on Saturday. We find sometimes we do more complicated things, like for example, on Saturday we're doing a Japanese pancake with green prawns through it, and mushrooms obviously, and serving that with a Japanese mayonnaise, little tiny one, just a bite size. But other times in shopping centres here at the Ekka, as you said, we just use butter, salt and pepper, a little bit of garlic, fresh sprinkling of parsley at the end, and the smell of it just drives you nuts. If you're hungry, I mean, it is.
Sounds like you've got a good job, Jane.
Oh, thank you. Well, I enjoy it very much, and I'm very, very lucky. Because the mushroom growers, they're great people to work with. Farmers, they're salt of the earth people. So it's a pleasure to be involved.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for taking the time to talk.
I really appreciate you involving us, and any time, Annette, I'd be happy to come and have a chat about mushrooms or anything else.
Excellent. I'll follow up Burpengary School also.
Excellent.
Thanks,
you.
Jane. Thanks for taking the time to talk this morning.
Thank you.
And, of course, we've been talking with Jane from the Queensland Mushroom Association, and it's one of those great things. And we will follow up the Burpengary School because these children in their primary school, of course, have taken their gardening program to another level. And I think it's lovely for children to be able to learn so many different aspects of food, and it's always such a buzz to see something go from either a seed or a little starter to create food for a meal. Get them interested. We'll go to a song and we'll be back shortly. And welcome back to Community Kitchen. We've been everywhere this morning. We've been talking about camels, and we've been talking about mushrooms, and I think that's wonderful when you've got events that are in our local area, and I think it's interesting to see that we've got so many industries in the Burnett, and we, even though we're in the Moreton Bay here, once you start to head out to the west area, and there's so many small industries happening there, and it's incredible to see. So if you want to have a look at Deb Corbett's fantastic, exciting little business, she sounded so happy this morning. Camel Milk Australia, Google it. You might like to buy yourself some of that camel milk kisses, or camel kisses, I think. She was talking about her lip balm. But isn't it interesting to see how one little idea can just grow into such a huge thing, and now they're building a dairy, and I mean, it's fantastic. At the same time, you've got the use of the camels on your property for weed control, and there's a whole little dynamics in there. And of course the Queensland Mushroom Association, it's one of those things that, as I said earlier, you either like them or you hate them. It's it can be different. But to think back about what they were like, mushrooms in a can, I'm sure everyone has had mushrooms in a can and in a sauce, and they're nothing like the real. But I think the lovely thing about them is that they call them the ultimate recycler, because you're just getting so much use out of them, and at the same time you're using your mulch and putting it back into your garden. They're a dynamic little, well, we can't call them a fruit or veggie, fungi. So I think that's interesting. And of course I say to you each week, and if you have something you want to share with our listeners, something that's happening in your home or in your garden or in your farm, or you may know of someone who's doing something interesting, give us a buzz here on 54951015. We like to share these things with our listeners. Good for us all to learn what's going on out there. We really enjoy that, and we'd like to thank the people for taking the time to talk to us, because everyone seems so busy nowadays. It's nice to be able to sit back and enjoy listening to someone's passion for food. I think that's great. Thank you for panelling, Leslie, and I'll be with you next week. Thanks very much.